Hello and welcome to the Fat Jack Sports Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, the Fat Jack. The weekend is here. College basketball's underway. We're coming off a huge week in actually everything. Football, soccer, players props. Not everything. UFC lost. Let's bring Brandon Rush in from Louisville, Kentucky. And actually, Breeders' Cup lost as well, Brandon. So we'll talk about that and much more. Get people into some profit this week. It's funny how I immediately go to the things that lost, even though the vast majority of things won. The things people pay for all won. But, you always want everything to win. And so you immediately seem to go to the things that didn't. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I survived Halloween and falling back, so it was an easy transition into November. And college basketball opening up really kind of makes it a little bit easier because we're going to have something going almost every single day from now until March. So it is, if you weren't ready for the grind before, you are not ready now.
Well, you're a lot more ready for it today than you were maybe a week or two ago if you're part of the service, because we had just an absolute rock-solid winning week. One of those that just puts money into the coffer consistently day after day. Go to fatjacksports.com. You can get the weekend plays this weekend if you missed last weekend. Better than nothing for sure. You're going to pay the most if you just get the day. I have a bunch of people sign up on Saturdays and Sundays just for the day. I don't get that. Sunday, it's normally $89 for the day or $99 if you get Saturday and Sunday, or Sunday and Monday. So for $10 more, you're getting the extra day. Although you did get the basketball, which won again last Sunday. So I guess I get it, but unless you're going someplace and only going to be betting for a day or the weekend, get signed up longer term. You get the same exact plays, and they cost you less than half of what you're going to pay if you sign up weekly. So fatjacksports.com, $3.99 gets you football through the end of November. $4.99 or so gets you football and basketball through November. Go through the Super Bowl, it works out to less than $100 a week every week on average. I always think it's funny. I'll run these specials. We ran a $99 special a couple weeks ago, and droves and droves of people came out of the woodwork to sign up. But if you sign up long term, it's always less than $100 a week. I mean, you can win every week. You just have to plan ahead. You have to invest in a winning year. And that's really the point, Brandon. It's one of those things where I don't want people just to sign up for the week if they're betting every week. That's why I don't run a $99 special every single week.
Every week, yeah. You want to incentivize the long-term players and reward them for making the smart decision to say, hey, you know what? This is an investment. We're going to be doing this for the next however long. Let's go with it. Let's jump in.
Unless you're not. If you're not, if you're going to Vegas or whatever, I get it. Sign up for the week. I would make a lot more money selling subscriptions if I would just run $99 every single week and then run a $32 boy howdy special, every now and then to get the guy that's sitting at the bar or whatever and wants to spend less than his bar tab is at Buffalo Wild Wings on his picks. I'd make more because there's a lot more of those people out there.
Yeah, a majority.
Right.
Exponentially more.
I mean, there's so many people betting on sports right now. It's a calculated decision that I don't just offer a $99 special every week or $32 or, $29 super sexy $69. All those things I'd make more money doing that, but that's not going to make you a winning gambler. It's just going to allow you to win one week. Now, if you sign up last week, you think that's the best thing in the world. 1 week's all you need. Because we'll recap that, and we're going to get to this week. Go to fatjacksports.com while we're doing this. Last week, nothing to complain about. We lost Monday night. We were 9-2 after last Monday night. All right, this is going back a week. I understand when we're taping. We're taping on Monday. So 9-2 on the year on Monday night. I'm not apologizing for 9-2. That's a good Monday night record. Then we won with extra plays Tuesday, Wednesday. Our play on Thursday won. Play on Friday.
Which by the way, when that Jets pick came out, I like many people was like, what in the heck is Jack thinking with this game? And then they go out and win the game.
Maybe one of the easiest games, not the easiest. Baltimore was super easy. I mean, we had so many easy games this week. But yeah, it was pros versus Joes to the core. Every $50 player in the world was on Houston. We were on the Jets with only the house and the other sharps.
Yep.
That's one of the things over 27 years, Brand, I figured out is when to play with the Joes a little bit. We'll talk about Sunday in a second. And when not to play with the Joes and when to jump on when we're supposed to be. And that's why I make more than just about anybody doing this. But we have win Monday or win Tuesday, Wednesday, win Thursday, win Friday. Saturday we go 3-2. The selections were bad. I was at the Breeders' Cup on Saturday. We'll talk about that too. I had a great time. I did not expect to have a great time. Didn't even expect to have a good time. Um,
Really?
yeah, I just went because it was a bucket list.
Yeah.
I envision a billion people crowded into a horse track and loads of people going everywhere. You can't see anything. You got to wait in line for 30 minutes between. That's
Elbows to buttholes. That's
that's
how you envision that entire thing.
that's what I'm envisioning. And I've heard about the Kentucky Derby that can be that, depending on the
Mm-hmm.
type of ticket you get. Could not have been further from the truth. Had an
Good.
incredible time. I was in a box seat, which didn't cost as much as I thought it was going to. With some lovely people besides my wife. I was with some people from Louisville, actually, from Louisville,
Oh,
Kentucky. Some other people from Belmont that were there. Everybody owns race horses where I was, except us.
sure.
And but really, really nice people. Didn't have to wait in long lines. It was kind of horse gamblers. That's who goes to it. I mean,
Yeah.
where the Kentucky Derby, it's more like let's wear a huge hat and throw a party. This was the dialed in horse better. I mean, these
Right.
guys were in it. And what's funny is I saw people from Oklahoma there. I saw a couple of people. Got a Mark Claudet who teaches tennis in Westwood in Norman.
Wow.
He
Small world.
just got an incredible memory because I would not have. I haven't seen him in 15 years, but he recognized me, walked up. He knows everybody. Anyway,
Sure.
Mark Claudet was there. A couple other people that he had seen from Norman that are Norman people were there. I mean, there's like, I don't know. It was really a lot of fun. As far as the races go, and I'll mention this because everything we did, as I said, leading up to the weekend and the weekend, we're all winners, except the Breeders' Cup. Last year, we hit about 6 of the races.
Mm-hmm.
Betting the minimum made over $6,000. Now, of course, I got heat. I had one person, Brandon, and this is a small number. Normally, I'll have a number of people that just buy the Breeders' Cup.
Sure.
This year, I had one dude that signed up just for the Breeders' Cup, and of course, he complained because he didn't win. Even though I've yelled from the rooftops, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. You have long shot after long shot. We had like first and third in like a third of the races. I mean, we
Right.
literally had the winner or second and third, 2 of the 3 in a number of the races, but didn't win. So what? Football goes 3-2 on Saturday. We split on basketball. Sunday, and by the way, players prop 1 on Thursday. Players props 1 on Sunday. Sunday's 14-4 if you played the players props to soccer, NFL, and NBA. NBA was undefeated. NFL was 4-1. And our one loss were the Giants that had
Ooh,
a 2
almost
point.
got there.
I had a
Almost
2
got
point
there.
conversion late after doing Giants things, turning the ball over early
doing everything possible to not
to
win the
lose.
game.
They spend a quarter and a half literally at every game getting behind, making high school type mistakes.
Yep.
And then, but just like I'm not going to complain because we're on the right side. We had Jacksonville the week before, exactly the same models and handicapping. Ends up getting there. Nobody is excited about Jacksonville, but people hate it when they get the Jets on Thursday, when they get the Giants on Sunday. Everybody hates that. I didn't get any complaints about Miami after the fact that ended up almost winning the game straight up. I didn't get any complaints about Baltimore that won 1,000-7 or whatever. And frankly, Sunday was a public day, Brandon. I know you saw this, but Sunday, actually, last week leading into Monday, the favorites 13-1 straight up. Only favorite.
That's a very public week.
Very public week. The only public play that the only favorite that lost was New Orleans to Carolina.
That cost the head coach's job. So
yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you start losing this time of year, and I'm looking at you, Chicago. I'm looking at you, Dallas. I mean, there's a few of these teams that you start losing this time of year to teams you're not supposed to. Owners are getting restless. How does Jerry Jones get out of bed on Sunday and go to the game? After all of the money and effort, and all that they put into Chicago, you now have Barstool's put up this thing of Caleb Williams lip syncing "We effing suck." I mean, so maybe he said that. Maybe he's singing a Britney Spears song. I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah.
But that's what it looked like he said on the sidelines to a teammate. That's not good. I mean, that's not good if you're the head coach that's literally won 3 road games. Since he's been there, Brandon, I don't know if you knew this, but since Chicago's head coach has been there, he is 3-18 straight up on the road. He's won 3 games ever on the road. How's he doing? You know who those teams were against?
I saw this and it's brutal. I want to say I know one's Bailey Zappi. Like
Bailey
they beat
Zappi,
the Patriots once.
Sam Howell.
And Josh Dobbs.
Josh
Yep.
Dobbs, exactly.
Yep.
They are 3-18 straight up on the road under Eberflus. So that's a good way to get yourself fired. He should be looking for a realtor at this time as well. So, but anyway, big week, lots of profit. Everybody, I still had a complaint. I just you cannot win enough to not get complaints. I mean, literally,
the one guy complained. It was like, your selections stink. Well,
the selections
opinions make up for the rest of it.
I don't think people who say that don't read the guide.
No.
I've thought about in the past. I should change the verbiage probably from opinion
the
to
terminology.
Something.
Yeah, because I think some people see the opinion and think, oh, well, why do I care what he thinks? I want to know what I'm paying for the selection. So yeah, I think that might be something.
What you're paying for is a recommended betting guide that explains exactly what to do. The only thing an opinion is a lower rated play that I have less confidence in than I do a selection. So you play half. So if you don't like the fact the opinions, by the way, went something stupid good. I mean, 6-1. Opinions were 6-1 last week. Extra plays
3-0 in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, because they're not opinions. I'm not just, you know what, I think I like so-and-so. I could do that. If I did that, I'd do it every single game. An opinion just means, by the way, you get a guide that says this literally every single time an email is sent, you get a guide. All you got to do is open it and read it. I say probably 4 times a week, please follow the recommended betting guide when betting the plays. Sometimes I go a step further and I will say, please play half of the money on the opinions that you play on the slide. I basically lay out what the guide says so that guys will have no problem understanding what they should be doing with the plays that are sent to you. If you do that, you're going to make a lot of money this year and are making a lot of money right now. I mean, it's going very, very well. We've got basketball starting. So go to fatjacksports.com, get signed up today and win. Those players' props have been sneaky, sneaky good. Add those. Add them. I mean, they were 11-3, 11-4 last week going into Monday night. Had 4 plays Monday night, 8-3 on Sunday alone. So just extra profit added in, doesn't cost a lot of money. Go get signed up today and start winning. All right. What jumped out? Brent, who's the best college team in the country?
Jeez. I mean, Ohio State has the best loss. They have one of the better wins. I don't know if that qualifies you to be the number one team. Many people, I think, would have probably sat beside Georgia, but then they go out in the first half of that game against Florida and look absolutely just lost. Oregon probably is the number one team in the country. You could make a case for a Texas, but yeah, after that, like, you're gonna sit there with a straight face and tell me Tennessee is the best team in the country? Penn State, Indiana, BYU. I mean, it's Oregon by a slight margin, and then a mess of about 15, 18 teams.
There's people in Bloomington or Bloomingfield or wherever the heck Indiana is.
Bloomington, yes.
That are about driving off the road right now. I mean, they're saying, what else do we have to do? Indiana
beat a team with a winning record would be nice.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to do that, I don't think. They're not going to lose either. I mean, that's going to be the thing. It's going to, thank God we have a playoff that includes a bunch of teams, because this looks like it's the year. And things will shake out between now. Mark my word, the number one seed's probably going to be whoever wins the SEC. People are not stupid. They understand that's the best conference in the country. Whoever comes out of that is going to probably be the number one seed. It's fun to argue in early November about a Big Ten team being the best team, or one of these teams that somebody that doesn't have a loss, or is under. But that's just silly. The reality is the best football players in the country in the SEC. It's not even close. And I'll say that when I go on in all over Ohio, I'll go in Cleveland, go on in all over in the Big Ten country, and I'll say, yeah, you guys are good teams, kings, queens, all that, but you are not. The SEC is the best football in the country year in and year out, and the number one seed will come out of that conference. Indiana is either going to be 12-0 or 11-1, it looks like, through the regular season,
with their only potential loss being Ohio State.
But they have not so far beaten a team with even a single point in the AP poll. Talk about scheduling being a big factor of where you are in the year. Now, the good thing about that, what adds to the drama, where before we would start getting anxious about that, because there's going to be 2 teams or 4 teams, like, gosh, I hope they don't put them in. It's like Florida State losing their quarterback. Well, I'm thinking, do not put them in. You lose your quarterback, you're not the same team that when you had them.
Yep.
But there are people would start getting nervous. So maybe I'm left out by a team that hasn't played anybody ever. The question is going to be how many teams get in from the Big Ten if Indiana does what they should do, which is goes on and then loses to Ohio State or gets in the conference championship, loses one or one game. If they lose two, they're done. But if they lose one, I always think it's funny that the human psyche in these situations. If this was Georgia or this was somebody else, even Ohio State or Michigan or somebody that was
Alabama in previous years,
going through this record against these people, we would have no problem with them losing one and possibly two. Well, they're Michigan, they're Ohio State. But because it's Indiana, they come from literally nowhere. They literally are still on a tightrope without a net as it relates to getting to the playoff because Big Ten's only going to get two teams at the absolute most. And if they lose twice, they're not one of those teams. So um, I would tell you this. I would take a number of teams from the SEC over anybody else in the country. I think Oregon is absolutely the best in the Big Ten because they play a different brand of football and can do that against the defenses that are up there, as they proved against Ohio State. And I think they would be able to beat just about anybody with the type of offense they play in that conference. And I think we were talking about future bets before we came on the air. That would be you wouldn't get any money, but I think they are all but a lock to win the Big Ten. I think they're the best team. So I would play them on a future if it was any type of odds at all. But the best team in the country, in my opinion, is still Georgia. I understand what happened. They are clearly a team that can, and Carson Beck is not what he should be, what he was last year. He certainly regressed, and I'm not sure why. They do have some injuries, but nothing that should take him to the point where he's just missing some receivers and they're not executing, not efficient at all. But there's a number of teams out of the SEC. Whoever gets out of the SEC, if you're looking to bet once the playoff comes out, I think the best teams are still from down there, barring turnovers. You're not going to get that look-ahead spot. That's what you're getting out of the SEC right now. When Georgia shows up against Texas, they are dialed in and play. When Georgia shows up against somebody else that's sneaky good, we've talked about this with the Oklahoma Sooners and their schedule, how they've had to replace some of the Kansas States and Ohio States with South Carolinas and Auburns and A&Ms, those type teams. That becomes a tougher deal. So that's the problem here. But when they play, when they're dialed in and they play, they are, in my opinion, still the best teams in the country. Kind of got to look through the trees to not see the forest type of thing. Right. You got to kind of just, not get tied up in what's going on right now, but look further ahead. That'll get you where you need to be. So FatJackSports.com if you don't want to mess with any of that. You were going to say?
Well, as I say, much like we talked about very early in this episode, think ahead. If you got to think long term. Yeah, you'll be excited if that team wins this weekend, or you're going to sign up for this weekend. You got to go long term and look into the future to really kind of see the perspective gains there.
Yeah, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this show, and every time I go on around the country talking about long term success. Mm-hmm. It's like talking about not playing parlays. I say that until I'm blue in the face, and it is not an opinion to not play parlays. And I think everybody I think everybody that hears that thinks, Fat Jack, he doesn't like parlays. That's silly goose. That's how I have all. I think
that's because he never wins parlays because he's a loser.
Hopefully they're not that stupid. I mean, I've been doing this quarter of a century. I mean, I don't even want to. But the point is it's not an opinion to not play parlays. It is a fact. It is a rule. The only people that win when you're playing parlays are the house. That's it. And let me quickly go over that, but that was not really my point here. When you play a two-team parlay, because there's new listeners all the time, if you're new to sports gambling, the number one generated revenue that sports books have are parlays, because the math is so against you as a gambler. You cannot overcome that. You're never going to make money long-term betting parlays. So the assumption is, as a sports gambler, you can hit 50% of your picks. We're going to give you that, even though a lot of you out there cannot. If you could just hit 50, now guys like me, we're going to hit closer to 60, 58, 59. That's going to make us, that's the difference between a casual sports gambler that drives a truck or is a doctor or a lawyer and somebody that can do this professionally from his yacht. I mean, it's literally the difference between 50% and 58%. But let's assume that you as a player who's walking up to play a parlay can hit 50%. If you can hit 50% and you play a two-team parlay, the best odds the house gives you on parlays are two teams. They get worse as you go to 3, 4, 5, 6. But this makes it as simple as I can for you with the parlay. Two teams are playing. You have to pick two different teams. All right, so you have 4 different combinations of what can hit. You have favorite, and you could say over under, but let's just favorite, underdog, favorite, underdog, right?
Yeah, so you got a 1 in 4 chance to get the right combination of winners there. So you're already
so what should a parlay pay if they're paying out what you should
the
make?
true odds? Yeah, you should get 3 to 1.
4 to 1, right? 3 to 1,
yeah.
4 to 1, 4 to 1. You get 4. There's 4 options, 4 possibilities.
And one of them's right.
One of them's correct. 3 are wrong. You should get 4 to 1. Do 2-team parlays pay you 4 to 1?
Nowhere close.
They pay you 3 to 1? No, they pay you
Nope.
2.5 times, right? 2.5 times the money is what you make on parlays if you can hit 50%. So instead of the 4 to 1, which is what it should be, it's 2.5 to 1. They're cheating you on the number simply based on your probability of hitting that, and it gets worse when you go to 3, 4, 5 teams. So another way of putting that, every time you walk up and play a parlay, a 2-team parlay, you're giving them 13 cents of every dollar. You're just giving it to them every time. So you go place a parlay, you give them 13. You give them $1, they give you 87 cents back. You give them $1, they give you 87. Da-da-da-da-da. Worse on a 3, worse on a 4. But it seems like when I say that, whether I say it just don't play parlays or I explain why to play parlays, the general public doesn't hear that.
Yep.
They hear what they want. So it's the same way with signing up long-term versus short-term. I say sign up long-term, consistent winning plays. That's going to help you win. I have guys sign up for $99 like it's going out of style. They don't sign up for the year even though it's less money to do that. I'm telling you guys out there, if you want to make money betting on sports, it's not too late. November's the time. Go get signed up, fatjacksports.com. Let's look at the games this week. That was too analytical, but it was important. It's like a PSA announcement. Once a month, I feel like it's important to break down why exactly the general public is giving away their money at a much faster rate than they should, even if they're not signing up for the service. So college football this week, Brandon, who you like? We didn't really talk about last week.
There wasn't much outside of Ohio State, Penn State. A couple top 10 teams or top 12 teams losing. K-State, Iowa State. There wasn't a whole lot to take away out of last weekend except James Franklin in a big game can't win.
Did what James Franklin does, yeah.
Water is wet, like we know this.
Yeah, how was his Saturday night? I bet it was rough at his household. He's married, right?
I would imagine, yeah.
He probably needed to go in his office and do nothing. Big game this week. Ole Miss, Georgia, at Ole Miss.
Yeah. The fact that this is at Oxford is an intriguing element because that place gets amped up, and especially for big games. Like they come with it. We know we have a lot of listeners in Mississippi. They understand the assignment anytime somebody like this comes to town.
And what's funny is I gave everybody this exact same spot. I gave everybody Georgia over Texas. Mm-hmm. And I said Georgia is better on both sides of the ball. Even on the road, Texas hadn't played anybody, blah, 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 blah. This one is very interesting also. And I will probably not only give you Georgia as a free win, I will probably release Georgia for exactly the same reason. But it is tougher because Ole Miss, people don't understand how good this defense is. All right, they're 9th in the country in total defense, I think, still. Ole Miss.
Ole Miss is 9th in the country in defense.
9th in defense. In sacks, they're at least 9th. Overall defense, are in the top 10 to 15. Their defense is really good. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. And what they did at Arkansas was not a fluke. I did not see that coming. I thought Arkansas would be able to move the ball, win time of possession, and keep the total down. That did not happen. Ole Miss scored every time they got the ball and scored most of the times that Arkansas got the ball. The total flew over because of that. So when you have one team that I think is going to do something, or I feel like will be able to do something at home, and they cannot do that, in fact, to do the opposite, that's what happens. So who do you like here?
I mean, Ole Miss's offense is pretty special. As much as I don't like Lane Kiffin as a person, I think as a play caller and as a play designer, he's fantastic. Jackson Dart might be the prototypical quarterback for his system. Quick release, smart with the football, understands the offense, and can pick his spots. That said, I don't believe that they have played a defense of Georgia's caliber. Oklahoma's defense might be the best one that they've played all year because, I mean, it wasn't Arkansas. It sure as heck wasn't Kentucky. Maybe South Carolina, but I think Georgia is by far the best defense that Ole Miss will have seen. There's a lot of familiarity, though, between Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart. There's no secrets between these two teams when it comes to scheme and everything else.
It's also a little bit like what we just talked about with James Franklin. I mean, we don't give enough credit to the fact that Lane Kiffin, generally speaking, does exactly what James Franklin does. Mm-hmm. He beats up on bad teams, and then he loses this exact spot at home in this exact situation, right?
Stubs his toe in the biggest potential spot.
Because he doesn't have as good athletes. I mean, that's the reality. He has athletes that are kind of niche to his offensive system. Mm-hmm. He's got some defensive players, but when he goes up against another big boy, for whatever reason, they generally fail.
It's very similar to Mike Leach when he was, say, like Texas Tech. You know,
exactly.
Hey, you can score 70 on anybody, but when you have to play somebody, you can't stop anybody, or you're going to have to score 50.
You can only do so much with players that aren't as good as the other team has. Now, Georgia has shown some vulnerability. Sure. So that's interesting. Georgia 23-2 straight up their last 25 games. Ole Miss 11-1 straight up their last 12 at home. These two teams generally don't lose. Definitely don't lose in Oxford. The under has been kind of the name of the game. 5 of the last 5 have gone under when these two teams have played in Mississippi. So I'm until further notice, I will always give you the team with better athletes, especially after you have a team that played bad the week before against another team that played really good the week before. I love that. That creates value almost every time. Georgia, a 2.5-point favorite. What is that? What is that line if Georgia had just won handily and Ole Miss struggled a little bit?
Yeah, if Georgia beats Florida by 30, like they probably should have, and Ole Miss, beats Arkansas like you kind of thought the game was going to be, where it was going to be like a 30-20 type game. Yeah, I think that's probably a touchdown line, if not more.
Yeah, that's what the look-ahead line was, a touchdown. After last week, kind of a knee-jerk reaction. It backs up. Now it's under a field goal. It'll be over a field goal, in my opinion, by the time it gets to game time. I'm surprised that more sharps haven't hit Georgia so far, so maybe I'm not where they are. We'll see as it gets further down the week. But I would have expected them to hit that early, especially being under that key number 3. But your first free winner of the day, Georgia minus the points against Ole Miss. If you want all of the winners this weekend and to make money betting on the games, especially with college basketball starting and so many different things going on, go to fatjacksports.com. The weekend's about 149, 189 or so for football and basketball through the weekend. If you're going to Vegas or going to Colorado, ski season is coming up. You take my picks with you. You can fund your app with FanDuel and different apps literally from the airport in Denver while you're driving up, and then bet the games while you're skiing. It's a great time to spend, great way to spend the week if you're going skiing, and make extra money betting on these games. So go to fatjacksports.com, get signed up today. Great deals are here. November is here. College basketball is here. As I said last week, a great week. 14-4 across all sports on Sunday. 11-4 with the football selections. Go to the results tab. You'll see exactly the plays, exactly the levels of with selections, opinions, and extra plays. You'll see exactly what everybody got. And next week, after you sign up, you'll be able to see exactly what you're getting posted and documented under the results tab, so that you know you're getting only the best plays. All right.
Hey guys, this is the Fat Jack. Are you finally ready to get a better plan betting the games this year? Let me help. Go to fatjacksports.com, where we understand that it's not the gambling she hates, it's the losing. fatjacksports.com.
Welcome back to the Fat Jack Sports Hour. And now here is our host. He's hitting the hardwood. He is the Fat Jack.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Fat Jack Sports Hour, segment number 2, heading into the weekend. Yeah, hitting the hardwood hard. I mean, I love basketball season because it's a great complement to football. If you're betting the games and you're thinking about signing up just for basketball, that's not the best idea. I always try to lead people down the right road, and that way when they go down the wrong road, I can say, I told you so. That's why you're dead. So if you sign up for just the Breeders' Cup, in the face, unless you live in a place you can't bet on any other sport, you sign up just for the Breeders' Cup and you're paying for something everybody else is getting free, I'm not going to give you a ton of sympathy. I will give you free plays later on. So next for the Triple Crown or whatever, if that guy emails back, say, hey, I did the Breeders' Cup, didn't make any money. You have any specials? Then I will give him a special, the one guy. But if you sign up for those racings and baseball and those type things, when you would get those for free, if you would just sign up for the football and or basketball, I'm trying to drive you towards sports that are going to make you the most money, and that you're able to complement those with baseball and with horse racing and those type of sports. So I don't go straight to the soccer package. If you're signing up, even though it's up this year, we're having a great year in soccer. There's no reason to just go get soccer. Get football with the basketball, with the soccer, with the players prop, and then follow the recommended betting guide. You're going to make a lot of money. You went 14-4 on Sunday alone. If you just did that, you made a ton of money last week if you just did that. You're going to make a lot of money going forward into November, December, and January. The new soccer package for Beyond November will be up here in a week or so. That first one ran from August through the month of November, still going on. Prices go down as you go through that package. So if you go right now, you can get the rest of the soccer through the end of November. It's like $300. And then after that, sign up for the next soccer pack. So take you into the new year, making money earlier than everybody else. We had who did we have? Nottingham. No, we had Tottenham on Sunday.
Yeah, Tottenham was a solid winner on Sunday, and
yeah.
then
Nottingham Forest maybe on Friday.
Yep.
We had one on Friday, one on Sunday, and pushed or lost on Saturday. So we went 2-2. Like I say, you're not going to go 4-0 every week. I think the soccer people got a little spoiled because they were hitting like
started off hot
3-1, 4-0, hitting ties, all sorts of stuff. And so we're deep into profit on the soccer. And the summer soccer made like 20 games of profit in a month over the summer during the Copa America
and
the Euro.
Yeah, that was some good living right there.
Yeah, and they're very inexpensive picks. So it's not like you're paying the same you do with football and the same you do with basketball. So adding those and complementing those in the players props with your other packages, that's the way you make money. Go to fatjacksports.com. Get signed up today and win this weekend. Breeders' Cup was interesting, Brandon, real quick, before we break down another free winner and then look at the NFL a little bit. I got the tickets through SeatGeek.
Okay.
And they were in a box, but it said box, but I'd never been to Del Mar before, and so I didn't really know exactly what the seats are going to be like. In my mind, I'm envisioning a row with like a grandstand, where you have a seat and you're sitting there and you got to get in and out and you got to wait in line. I'm not really looking forward to it, but I thought, you know what, this is going to be a great experience. I need to go try it. So we get there, the seats are great, but before that, I had to go pick up the seats from, an independent broker or whatever who listed them on SeatGeek. So I get a call, and the guy says, come to where I'm staying, my house, to pick up the seats. And I'm like, okay, that seems sketch.
That's a little sketch, yeah.
But I need the seats. We're day of. Okay, whatever. So I drive. He texts me the address. I drive. It's down this canyon road. There's a gate going into this house, and the gate is closed. There's like three Mercedes and a couple of Ubers. There's like a bunch of cars out there outside this gate. So I text him and say, hey, I'm here. And it's these real scenic views of this canyon. Very, very pretty situation. So guy says, all right, I'm going to come open the gate. So this girl walks out, Brandon, in a 2-piece string bikini.
As you do.
No shoes, no nothing, pink hair, no tats everywhere. I mean, and she presses the button to the gate, and then she turns around and kind of scampers back off. So I look around like, what is going on? So I walk in the gate. It's literally like a scene out of Boogie. I thought I'm in Boogie Nights. I expected to see two people, getting after it there on the concrete overlooking on the lawn overlooking the deal. There's a pool. It's an Airbnb is what had happened. They're from Philadelphia. These people, they're doing good business. Like I say, there are 4 or 5 other normal to highbrow looking people there trying to get their tickets, appalled by what they're in the middle of. It looked like a drug deal. Walking up to this deal, up the stairs in the house. There's a camera set up, tickets laid out all over the table. So I finally get them. I told Karen when I get back in the car, I said, these may work. They may not. I mean, I don't know what has happened.
Always a risk when you buy tickets secondary, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, we got there. It was a lot of fun actually, and sat next to some other people that were totally appalled by the whole thing. I walked out of the gate, and the neighbor walked out from next door and said, can I help you? I said, no, you can't help me. I said, I'm getting tickets from this old boy. You should probably talk to the owner of this house. So I got back in my car and left. But he was not happy about the entire Airbnb situation going on in his little nice neighborhood. So Had a
No,
great
no.
time
Most
there.
most of those people normally aren't.
Yeah, had a highly recommend, by the way, if you're ever get a chance to go to the Breeders' Cup to do it. It's at Del Mar next year also, and I'm going to go next
Hmm.
year as well. So maybe we should plan on you coming out here and going to the Breeders' Cup. You
I'm
want to go to the
not
Breeders'
against
Cup?
that. I love the Breeders' Cup, and like I said last week, it was at Keeneland, literally like 70 miles from my house a couple years ago, and I didn't go, and I still just kick myself in the butt for it.
Well, I now know how to. If I can get a box, I'll try to get a full box, and then you and Jamie should come out. Like I said, there were people from Oklahoma that were there. I saw them, and long weekend is worth it. It was a lot of fun,
Hmm.
especially if you're a horse racing fan. Del Mar is beautiful, obviously. It's in northern San Diego, and really, really nice. So you guys can stay at the house, and we'll go out there. All right, other games going on Saturday that are of interest before we turn to Sunday. Alabama LSU. That what a SEC is just bringing it again.
Yeah,
I mean, just absolutely bring it.
that's a left and a right there. When you go Georgia, Ole Miss, and you follow it up with Bama LSU in Baton Rouge at night. I mean, that place, talk about electric. That's going to be a fun game. Also, the Holy War, BYU and Utah, is going to be intriguing just because those two always bring some level of insanity to the college football landscape, and the fact that BYU is undefeated is kind of intriguing.
Yeah, Utah's phoned it in. There won't be an African American in the stands. I mean, it's just absolutely going to be. You want to talk about a whiteout? Going to have a whiteout of epic proportions going on in Provo or wherever.
Salt Lake, yeah.
Salt Lake.
Yeah.
There you go. Oklahoma. Don't look now. 2-point underdog to the Missouri Tigers. Have these two teams regressed and progressed to the point where this should just be a 2-point line at Missouri? What are we going to do? You're going to need multiple TVs, by the way, on Saturday night. You've got all three of those games we talked about are all evening games. Am I looking at that wrong? I mean, they all look like they're all evening games. Georgia's
an afternoon. Georgia, I think, is 2:30.
Oh yeah, sorry, 2:30. You're exactly right.
But you go Bama, LSU, BYU, Utah is a late game. Pitt, Virginia, yeah. So the late slate is interesting. Mississippi State, Tennessee. There's some intrigue in some of these late games.
So I know that Missouri has injuries, and that they're not the same team that won 6 games. But have they regressed at home? Somebody explain to me what OU's done again? I'm trying to figure out who OU has beaten that matters at all. I mean, what am I missing here? I mean, the OU hasn't beaten anybody. I mean, literally, except Auburn. The game. Are we putting a lot of stake in them beating Maine? Do we feel like that Jackson Arnold another week in the system or whatever, him settling in and them getting a few more players back, that number's worth too. If I'm an OU fan, I love that number, by the way. Love it. Because that tells me that Vegas thinks we're going to beat Missouri. Because if you're walking up and looking at a 6-2 Missouri team and you paid attention at all to the early part of their schedule, and they're hosting an OU team that's best win is who? Auburn?
Auburn, yeah. Meanwhile, Missouri beat Boston College. They beat Vanderbilt. And they also beat Auburn. Their 2 losses were A&M, who, I mean, is a pretty solid team, and Alabama. Now, granted, 34-0 against Alabama doesn't sit very well. So I kind of with you. I feel like this is a bit of an overreaction. I was shocked to see that number come out as low as it did.
That, or it's an absolute trap, and Vegas is looking at things that the general public's not seeing. I will have all this figured out by the time we get the weekend. Like I say, this show tapes on Monday. So these are kind of look-ahead spots that we're looking at.
Though, Jack, the only opportunity OU has to maybe make a bowl game. If they win this game, they're bowl eligible because they are not beating LSU. They are not beating Alabama.
That been factoring all to me. Yeah, I mean, you're right. You're absolutely correct. But I don't know that matters. I just love, if I'm an OU fan, I love the number because I'm like, all right, Vegas thinks we have a shot. They're absolutely taunting people to play Missouri in this spot. That's great. That's great news. On the field, we haven't seen that. So Alabama, LSU, who you like there?
I mean, LSU is still pretty good. I don't really trust either of them in big situations right now because they have proven that they can't win sort of the big games thus far, at least with this roster and this coaching staff. The loss for LSU to Ole Miss, or excuse me, to A&M, I think has an opportunity to potentially beat them twice. The good news is for them, though, they had the bye week to get ready for Bama. So that at least helps them kind of resituate and get things ready for this weekend. Bama had one bad day against Tennessee. I still believe that Bama's still pretty good, and they showed last week, I think maybe was their get back game where they beat Missouri handily. That kind of righted the ship and proved that they belong in the upper echelon of the SEC still.
If they don't, the thing is, if they don't get 4 turnovers against Georgia, they probably lose to Georgia too.
Yep.
And what's been made the SEC so challenging this year, I think, for gamblers and everybody else, is the variance. Is that these teams that we used to know what we were getting at the top. You know, you knew what you were going to get. If Alabama even turned it over 2 or 3 times, you were going to get great defense. You were going to get the ability to score. So if they didn't win, they were at least going to be in the game. Now we're seeing with Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee that they're on any given Saturday, they're willing to show up and not be the Alabama we've known or the Georgia we've known or Tennessee even for that matter. LSU, are they able to step up and take over that? You know, but that's been what's different. It's not so much the variance that LSU provides. It's what Alabama is not afraid. We're just not used to that. Alabama 3-point favorite on the road at LSU at a 6:30 kick. So you're getting the evening game there. And LSU, you know, really good at home at night. There is a ton of must-see football going on this weekend. I think it's interesting, though, Brandon, we talk about Indiana, and you're going to see the rest of the way people talking about how good Indiana is or isn't. We're talking about Indiana's schedule, them not even playing anybody that's getting a point in the AP poll. And teams like LSU are having to run through A&M, USC early in the year, A&M, Alabama. I mean, it never ends. So the idea that we would think that Indiana is anywhere on the same level
as LSU, yeah,
LSU or Tennessee or any of the, you know, that second tier, that one step down. And I feel almost awkward putting Tennessee in that because, as you said, they beat Alabama. They're doing most of the time doing everything they're supposed to do in a conference that is susceptible to slip-ups, which is what we get. We get teams that show up. And now I don't have much excuses for teams like Clemson that last week just laid an egg, you know, so they go lay an egg. I say, all right, well, that shows kind of who you might be. These other teams, though, with the level of competition in the SEC, it's just, you know, it's easy to just kind of shrug your shoulders. Colorado already won 6 games, already bowl eligible. They're going to Texas Tech as only a 3.5-point favorite. Texas Tech quietly also has 6 wins. So a ton of good games. Any idea there?
Hey, Tech is salty. That's a program that is better than I thought they probably could be. After the losses to Baylor and TCU, I kind of thought they were done, but then to go to Ames and knock off an Iowa State team that hadn't really had an inside track to the college football playoff kind of shows a little bit of muster, and I like it. That said, Colorado going to Lubbock, that's a culture shock right there.
How many more
to Lubbock?
Yeah, how many more losses can Colorado have and their receiver / cornerback win the Heisman? I mean, he's the favorite right now in Vegas. It's going to be interesting to see when you have a player like that is so good on both sides of the ball. Is the reflection, because normally it is the reflection of the team. So you have a running back, Boise State goes out and loses, or any quarterback-driven Heisman Trophy run. Oregon, exactly.
Yeah.
Those type teams go out and lose. It's a big problem. When you have a two-way athlete that's so good on both sides of the ball and the best player on the field, you know, common sense, but really the rest of the team has some weaknesses. I mean, they're only 3.5-point favorite on the road in Lubbock, and Texas Tech's good, but not, you know, what would be the number if this team played a really good team? You know,
sure.
they double-digit underdogs to a lot of teams. So, how many more losses can they have in him still?
I think one more loss would eliminate Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback, from the conversation. 2 losses definitely wipes Travis Hunter out, which is unfortunate because I think that kid is going to be an absolute star in the NFL.
Yeah, Sanders, I think, is not winning it. You can't. It's not even close. But no matter what they do,
it stinks for Travis Hunter because any potential voters in that region might be split because of his teammate. So
yeah, if he was a one-way player, you're right. I mean, we see that a lot. We see two players from Alabama, Georgia, whatever, and you get the same type of voters, both the same type of idea. They have to pick a kid off a team, and they don't all go the same way.
Yeah.
When it's a one-way starter, I think that's right. But I don't know anybody, even in that region, that would look at Colorado and say their quarterback is more valuable.
Or is the reason they're winning games. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good.
He's the best player on the field. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like 100 because this kid's a two-way starter.
Yeah.
Hunter just does it all. Like I say, he still has to stay healthy. Every time he goes out, he's not a huge kid. And
he plays so recklessly and aggressive that he's going to put himself. That's something he's going to learn at the NFL level. Is that, hey, you don't need to deliver the big blow here. You can step out of bounds on a play. You can self-preservation is going to be huge. But until then, I think he's just going to go balls to the wall and see what happens.
So I'll tell you this, in my opinion, either Oklahoma, Texas Tech, or I would say, or Kansas win straight up. You have three of these games that are very, very similar in that you have 2 to 3 point numbers, two of them on the road, small favorites. You have a 2-6 Kansas Jayhawk team hosting a 7-1 Iowa State team, 17th ranked team in the country, and Kansas is a 3-point underdog.
And for some reason, they're playing this game at Arrowhead.
Yeah, that was determined a long time ago, actually, when they thought Kansas was going to win a few more games. So that's one of those leases that you get into that you want to get out immediately after. So good seats still remaining, by the way. You're in the Kansas City area and you want to see a game. They're not filling that place up, so go see a little Iowa State-Kansas game at Arrowhead. That'd be a good taste. So FatJackSports.com, get signed up today. It says that college basketball is here. NBA underway. Had a good weekend, 3-1 last week in the NBA. Football, a great weekend last weekend. We now have an 11-2. We have 10-3. We have 11-5. We now have 11-4. 14-4 Sunday. When you play everything. So gosh, everything's going well. Go to the results tab, get signed up, and make money for the rest of November betting on sports.
This is Brandon Rush from the Fat Jack Sports Service. If you want to stay in touch with everything related to the Fat Jack, follow us on all the socials: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, you name it, we are there at Fat Jack Sports. You can also watch the Fat Jack Sports Hour on YouTube every week. Get free winners and tips on how to become a better sports bettor. Plus, see Jack's appearances on the nationally syndicated TV show Beat the Odds. Stay connected with the Fat Jack Sports Service at Fat Jack Sports on all the socials and on YouTube. Welcome back to the Fat Jack Sports Hour, and for the final time this week, here is our host, not going to Germany this week. He is the Fat Jack.
Thank you so much, Brandon. Fat Jack Sports Hour, segment number 3. No, I'm not going to Germany. Been to Germany. Actually like Germany. Really enjoyed it. It's uneasy feeling to go to Germany. Go there.
Yeah, you kind of get the heebie-jeebies.
Watch Antique Roadshow, and you know that some of those items have come from. They've been taken, ill-advised.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too soon. That type of thing. I did, and I will tell you this: you can see how that thing could happen over there because they follow the rules to a T. There's no jaywalking in Germany.
Really?
No jaywalking at all. Like you walk up to the street corner, if it's red, it doesn't matter if there's not a car for 10 miles either way. Everybody's stopping. And if you walk across, because in America, we're like, hey, it's clear, let's go. They look at you wrong. Well, that's the same mentality, I think, when somebody says we hate all of this type of, I don't see it working, but I'm just saying you got to be a rule follower to listen to anything ridiculous. Why don't we walk across the street even there's no cars either way? And they don't do that. They stand there and they wait until the light is green until you're supposed to go because that's the rules. And if you break the rules, they look at you weird. So I don't know.
And we're punishing these people by sending them an NFL game between the New York Football Giants and the Carolina Panthers.
How in
we're
the
not sending
world?
Our best.
How in the world does this happen? I mean, it's just not even close.
The good news is they're used to 3-2 games.
No, that's true. I mean, this is all about low scoring. And I'll tell you that I've said this before, but go ahead and go into London and cover those games. The majority of European fans, it used to be like 85% of all European fans that were going to the games in London were from Germany. Mm-hmm. It was the first country that grabbed onto the NFL and said, yeah, sign us up.
If you remember the World League back in the day, the World League of American Football, they had the Rhine Fire, there was that Frankfurt Galaxy. That was good times back in the
yeah,
late
exactly.
90s.
They connect with American football, and that's why these games are going. Now it's a little more 50-50. You got a lot of London people come in from other countries around Europe for those London games, but Germany kind of started that idea with the league to say, you know what, wait a minute, we might be able to expand into Europe a little bit and do. And so, yeah, you're right. The teams they get, I don't think they care. I've been to the German games before. The fans are great. It's a lot of fun, and they're going to need all that excitement when they get the Giants minus the 4.5 against Carolina. You have any thoughts on that? I mean, the problem with the Giants, Brandon, as I said before, they're just like Jacksonville. And Jacksonville, we're struggling with that again this week. Jacksonville's a 4-point underdog at home versus Minnesota. So when you walk up to the window and you play the team that has value versus the number, sometimes it is very uncomfortable to do. And the Giants, they are providing value with the way Neighbors is playing. Jones has been better than the public perceives. He's not been great, not even been really good. He's just been okay.
It was decent last weekend, though.
At times, it depends on their end of the year banquet, if they have one, you would be able to put together a pretty nice reel. But you're also going to have some things. It would
be short, but you would have a nice reel, yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to have some other things. You're like, how is he a starter in the NFL? And now they get Carolina that, lo and behold, came back and won last week. The only underdog leading up to Monday night that won straight up was Carolina, the Sharps have been hammering this year. They've been giving away a ton of money on Carolina and Jacksonville. Jacksonville are getting some of that money back now. But Carolina and Jacksonville have been the darlings of the Sharp players. Now they're getting 4.5 from a Giants team they're talking about variance, how good they can be or how bad they can be. One of the widest in the entire league. So any thoughts on the early game in Germany? You want to just kick over it and move on to something else before we get out of here?
I will gladly sleep in and miss that game.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. Probably won't be a release. I'll probably put out something if we're having another great week on that. The game that I would look at is I would expect the underdogs to come back. You're going to want to play favorites. Underdogs are probably a good spot. Pittsburgh going to Washington's a good spot. Washington overvalued in the league, playing well, young quarterback. Expect them to regress a little bit here going forward. So Pittsburgh is certainly worth a look. And then another one be the New England Patriots. As I said before, I think the Chicago Bears are about done. They are not scoring against just about anybody in New England, still fighting. So just a couple to look at in the NFL before we head to the weekend. Guys, get signed up at fatjacksports.com. Less than $100 a week to make money. We'll have college basketball going. We'll have players props going. We'll have soccer going. Everything going this weekend. Get signed up and make money. Final thoughts, Brandon?
Atlanta and New Orleans, the NFC South games are always just crazy when they play each other. And New Orleans, do they get the post-firing of the head coach bump going into a home game against a division rival this week?
Almost always close. You're right. I mean, you can't. Sometimes it's 33-36. Sometimes it's 12-15. But they're almost always close. So another spot where the general public's going to line up, play the better team, might not be the right way to go. Be careful this week if you're playing on your own. Otherwise, get signed up. Guys, don't drink and drive. Wager responsibly. Have a great weekend. Until next week, we'll have a ton to talk about with all these big games. You've been listening to the Fat Jack Sports Hour.